That's a baby squirrel, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Climbing on this girl. Where'd you get him?
Our friend's neighbor's dog came and dropped it on their bed.
No way, alive, huh?
Yeah.
He was like, you will have a new pet. What's going on, guys? Jesse Rush with Fling Got Bows, and today I'm going to head out into, sorry, I'm driving with my camera hand. Today I'm going to head out into some nature and just do a little bit of scouting around and look for maybe some wild edibles or possibly shoot at a rabbit or a squirrel. So I want you guys to come along with me and check this out. Hey guys, we're out here in this little patch of woods, and I'm just going to itemize what I have. I have brought in a tiny little bit of water here with some jute twine connected to it so I can carry it. I've got my arrow quiver with a few homemade arrows, and I have a homemade bow, vine maple bow that I made, and a set of binoculars wrapped around my neck in their case. And before I've even taken off, or taken off into the woods, really, the road's right there, I've already found several edible wild plants. They're not all in bloom. Here we have the muscadine grapes, the Florida's version of a grape, and where else? I just saw something else. Oh, right here. Here we have sword fern. And a sword fern you can just pull up, and certain times of the year there will be a tuber on the bottom of this, which can be prepared in several different ways. You can boil it, you can eat it raw, you can do several things with them. So that's the sword fern. These don't have any tubers on them and are probably not ready right now. And then right over here, this is, I believe this is wax myrtle. Yes, this is a wax myrtle. And these grapes can be eaten, as you can see in here, but they're very strong. So you don't want to eat them like crazy. And yeah, they're very strong, but this is wax myrtle. This also makes a decent bow wood once it gets larger. This is dwarf mulberry, which the Native Americans use this a lot for a lot of different things. One of which is if you take it off and kind of crunch it up in your hands and smell it, you can smell it's a soap. It makes a very good soap. Another thing with wax myrtle, sorry I'm jumping back and forth, is you can keep these leaves on. You crush them up and put them in your pocket, and they can actually keep the insects away from you. You can also put them underneath your bed while camping in the woods, and it will keep the insects off of you. There's several different types of wax myrtle. They can tend to look a little different from each other. Some of them actually look like live oaks, like this one. And so you got to be vigilant in what you're looking at. Here's another edible plant, the sabal palm or cabbage palm. You can eat the heart area. Also, you can pull out the center stick and eat that, and you can even use the palm pieces for cordage. What else? There's an oak right here. Obviously you can eat the acorns. Pines, you can eat pine cones, or you can use the pine needle for making a tea that's full of vitamin C and has a citrusy flavor. So that's 10 feet into these woods right here. So I'll get back with you. Check out this really cool feather that I found. It is blue with black spots on it. I don't know what it is. It's not big enough for any kind of fletching, but it may be cool for like a decorative piece. So I'm going to keep it. Well, I've gotten back in here a little ways, and I've got this nice little encampment area, and I'm going to chill here for a minute. Alright, a really good way to get mosquitoes off of you is if you're a smoker, you can light up a cigarette. Mosquitoes tend to hate cigarette smoke of any kind. Another good way is to just use this plant behind me here. Again, the wax myrtle. And you can just take the leaves of this and just grind them up and just kind of rub them on yourself. It doesn't work as good as like a citronella plant, but it definitely lowers the amount of bugs that are going to be all over you. I guess we'll continue our quest deeper into the woods. I came across this wax myrtle again, and I just want to add one more thing about these wax myrtle berries. They're not really that good to eat. A better source to do with these is to put them in a pepper grinder and a pepper mill and grind them up and use them while you're cooking meat. And the leaves can also be made into a slight tea or used as like a basil. And the dwarfed mulberry, this is the leaves from a dwarf mulberry. They're not a mulberry, that's just a nickname. So don't go eating on them, alright? The Indians used them, but not as food. You can also eat palmetto, okay? Palmetto, though, you got to be careful harvesting from palmetto, because rattlesnakes really like to sit inside palmetto, and so yeah, and you can also eat the palmetto bean, but it tastes a little bit like tobacco-soaked rotten cheese. That is and the difference between a palmetto and a cabbage palm. This is a cabbage palm. Notice the branch has no saw marks on it. And this is a palmetto, or a saw palmetto. And if you get close enough, you can see that there are saw serrated edges on the edges of the cabbage or the palmetto. Also, the palmetto, that part of that leaf, the sticky part, stops right at the leaflet, whereas a cabbage palm, it forms a spike up into it. So yeah, just a little work. Well, here we have a cluster of palmettos, and I don't like walking through thick palmettos because of rattlesnakes. You can't really tell you're near them until you're standing on top of them, and they can strike up to, I don't know, twice their body length, I think is what it is. So, whenever possible, avoid walking through thick palmetto. And here is a friend that you don't want to come in contact with. Poison ivy. Poison ivy's real noticeable because of the warts all over it. That's from the poisonous oils in the leaflet. And you will break out in a bad rash if you run into poison ivy. And it can last weeks. There's some really big leaves over there up in the tree. So, I would say avoid poison ivy at all costs. Okay, so here is some of the edible part on a cabbage palm. Just like a palmetto, you can pull the center sprout out that hasn't opened yet. This later on will turn into a fan leaf that opens up and gets all pretty, but as of right now, it was sticking up out of the tree like so. You can yank it out with a little pressure. It's kind of hard. And the end, about an inch or so, is nice and edible. And it's a good source of carbohydrates. A good way to know how much of it's edible is it'll be real easy to eat, and then all of a sudden it doesn't bite off anymore. And that's when you know you've eaten all of it that you can. You can also use the strands of it to make cordage. Here's another plant that I bet you didn't know you could eat. This bastard of a plant, this hitchhiker. The leaves are edible, yet not yummy to the palate, if you will. They're kind of annoying. They've got a lot of hairy stuff on them, and if you're going to eat a leaf, you want to eat one of the new growth baby ones. But yeah, this guy is actually edible. And if I'm not mistaken, you can make a fire drill spindle out of the stalk of one if you find a good one. This is a cut-off pine tree, and that is a very flammable resin. Pine tree have turpentine inside of them, and you can also use this sap to make a glue, a hot glue, called pine pitch. So, it doesn't have to be cut off. You can find just a stab wound in the side of one, or a spot where a branch broke off, and it makes a very flammable turpentine-based resin. There's a little piece right in there, that yellow spot. And actually, if this log were to sit here for a long time and not rot, you get a petrified piece of hard-dried pine that we call in Florida lighter knot. And that stuff you can take a lighter and stick it to, and it lights right up. Gives off a black smoke and is not good for cooking, but will burn for hours. I'm Jesse Rush with Fling Got Bows. Take it easy.